So today we're going to take a look at a product called Wireshark really quickly and install and very quickly a few of the pieces that we're going to do with it. This is a very powerful tool for packet capture and analysis. So let's take a few minutes and we'll install this product. So the first thing we need to do is actually look for Wireshark. And we can do it a couple of ways. If we just do a quick Google search, we notice that we can go to what's called wireshark.org. If you had that address already, you'd know that. So it'd be great if everyone would like to fund me for this adventure to Europe. Unfortunately, I probably won't be there. But they actually have organizational meetings, and they will do a ton of things. So if you click on that and look at it, it's really interesting. So Wireshark is a widely used program. We're going to download it really quickly. And you'll notice when we click download, it has, well, all different kinds of releases. So if you're on a Mac, there's a version for the Mac. There is a portable version. But since all of the machines that we'll be using are 64-bit machines, let's just grab the Windows 64-bit installer. And in this case, I have a fairly decent internet connection. And I should be able to get it in a few seconds here. So I'm going to click to this program. If you're using another browser, you may see it in other locations. All right, so you'll get a user account, a UAC, pop up that says, do you want to allow it to make changes? And I'm going to click yes. And so, of course, it's always wants to install in the window. I've got multiple monitors here, and it always wants to install. So you'll see some guided network pieces here. We're going to say, yes, we agree. And as far as I know, and I have not looked at the source code and taken it apart, so you'll have to take that with a small grain of salt, there is nothing malicious in Wireshark. It is so heavily used by network industry all over the world, I can't imagine that there's anything in here. Now, if I'm downloading it from anything other than wireshark.org, could it get wrapped in something? Yes. So make sure you are downloading only from wireshark.org. All right, so I'm going to associate those extensions. I'm going to put it in C program files Wireshark. You do probably want to install WinPCAP. In fact, it won't work if you don't. In this particular case, I've already had it installed on these machines, or this machine, and so it's already got a version of WinPCAP 4.1.3. WinPCAP is a program that is also installed that it actually allows for the packet capture. So notice it's the same version, so I'm going to skip that. You can also click on the what is WinPCAP, and it will give you a little more elaborate description. So then it'll pop up in a window and tell you all about what that is. So click next. If you are using a USB modem, because it's the only device in there, you're using a USB connection in some sort, you probably will want to use this. There are a few things that can go wrong with that. It's not perfect yet, and it can cause some hiccups. So if you are connecting with a network cable or a wireless connection, don't check this at this point. Click install. And so now we'll go through the really fairly quick install process. And this is probably where my computer is going to yell at me and tell me that you need a bigger hard drive because you store too much stuff. You've become a pack rat of things. All right, installation was complete. I'm going to go ahead and just click this so I can run it right away. But if you want to run it at any point, remember in Windows, I can simply go wire, and it will start to look it up for me. So the easiest way when you get there, and we'll show you what it looks like. So I'm going to click run. Notice you'll see a little shark fin down there as it starts to load and install and run the first time. And the interface now is different. They're changing it, making it look really interesting. So one of the first features we want to look at is most computers have more than one network connection at this point. So if I'm on a laptop, or even in this case this is a desktop, but I'm connecting with wireless because I haven't figured out a way to drag a wire through a concrete wall yet, or haven't chosen to figure out a way yet. you'll notice that you have multiple connections listed here. And depending on the computer, you may have 2 or 3 or 4 or even more. But what's interesting, and they make it a little easier, you'll notice that it shows you some activity here on this little graph. So it's showing me my wireless activity, the number of packets and things here as we go. So this one says, there's nothing going on. I have a MAC address, that hard-coded address in my network interface card in there, but I'm not showing anything. Here, notice I'm getting some traffic. And so this is what Wireshark looks like. We're going to very quickly, so I'm going to select that particular one, and now it is actually taking a packet capture. That easy. All I had to do was click on it once. Now we're going to do some other things as time goes on, but this is a quick way that we can start to grab some packets. And so I'm going to now click stop, because I've got several packets already now, and I can start to look at what's going on in my network. And so a couple of things to look at in here. I can move any of these around, so if I need to for user's sake. So this is really a hex view or a hex dump of each one of those packets, so you can see what's in there. And I can at the top of these, so notice this scrolls down through them on the right. They're color coded. Right now they're organized by time. And this is a really handy way to reorganize them, though. We can actually, if we double click on those, I can now see all of the packets by IP address. In this case, their source IP address. So in this case, so in this network that we're on right here, 192.168.2.1 happens to be the router for the network. And so you'll see that this packet has a destination of 239, 255, 255, 250. Well, that sounds really different, because that doesn't seem like a similar address. It didn't start with 192, and so we might have to think about what's going on there. You'll see here we have a couple that are going to 192.168.2.112, 112. Well, who has 112? Maybe we should do a little check. So one of the things we can do very quickly, just so we refresh ourselves, is we can do a CMD to get to the command line. And again, it always likes to pop up in the other window, so let me drag that over here. And so the thing I'm going to look at real quick is I'm going to do an ipconfig/all. And I'm going to look at what's all happening on this computer, just so I know where I'm at in the grand scheme of things. So, well, my Ethernet adapter, we're not showing any traffic, and it doesn't seem to be connected to anything. But my wireless connector, aha! So wireless LAN adapter right here. So somebody's plugged in an 802.11 in, and even a USB wireless card. But I didn't have to use the USB on this particular one, so I'm lucky there. All right, so I have a physical address, in other words, that MAC address, and we could find out the manufacturer of it. So I have a IPv6 address, and here's my IPv4, which is what this network is running, 192.168.2.112. Okay, so anything up here as a destination of 112 or as a source of 112, that's this particular computer. All right. So it also shows a few other things. So our DNS server is 192.168.2.1. It shows our gateway, which happens to be the same thing. Where our DHCP comes from, same thing. Our lease information, and some other quick information. So remember, if you're confused, where am I in this process, you can always do that CMD, pop up a text box, and you can do that ipconfig, and you can look and see, oh, this is my address. This is my address of the router. What are some of these other ones out here? So you'll see, for example, here we have a source. So 112, that's this computer, is trying to send a packet to 64.4.250 or 54.253. And here you'll notice this TLS. This is an external address that it's sending it to. So we've encrypted and we're creating an HTTP connection here. So we'll look at some of those quite a bit later. But the thing here I want to point out is how we can do those. So I can click them back and I can put them back by time, and we can see some of these things, how they happen by destination, by protocol. In other words, what language are we using? And we can look at it that way. So here we have ARP, so address resolution protocol. So here we have TCP, here we have TLSV. So we'll look at what some of these are. So you'll see we have a lot of different types of protocols or languages that we're going to look at running here. So here we have part of our exchange process where we're looking at how do we create that handshaking. And so we're going to look at some of that. A length, so you can actually see which packets are bigger. So those packets very short, and again if I click it, it reorganizes the top. Here we have some packets that are much longer. They're carrying traffic and carrying data. So I'm going to quickly start capturing packets again. So I'm going to dump everything we have there. So I'm going to continue without saving. So now this is just what's happening. We're not doing anything on this computer really. But over in another window here, I'm going to open up YouTube. And I'm going to click some random video that will appear on YouTube. The complete Linux course. Great. So now YouTube is running. And now if I go down here, you'll start to see that I am piling in a ton of packets out of there. So if I go all the way to the bottom here so you can see where it's developing. Notice we are just piling in traffic. And in fact now we're also getting some that are red coded. And we'll have to see what some of these different colors are. But notice the amount of traffic now in just a short amount of time. So we were on there. Let me turn off my video about Linux right now. So in just a short time we got 10,000 almost packets that we can look at. And we can look at an individual packet. So here we've got one highlighted. And we can actually see some inside information then about that packet. Here is a hexadecimal dump of that packet. And in this case it's not very useful. It doesn't reveal a whole lot about what's going on. We can see a lot of information though if we start looking at this. So where do we get this number? Here's its frame number, frame length. So in this case it's 440 bits or 55 bytes. So you can see coloring rules. We can see that it's Ethernet 2. You can see what port it's going to go to. And again, we'll talk about what ports and IP addresses and how those things work. So we have a source port, a destination port, a sequence number, acknowledgement. So all of these things we're going to talk about in here. And if we click on any of these, so now here's another port, a packet. This one happens to be a UDP packet. And you'll see I can almost start to figure out some of that information. You're starting to see information in here as it's translated. So some of this stuff actually transmits almost in clear text. So when we talk about packet capture and why it could be dangerous, if I can plug into your network and I can just do a packet capture all day long, I can start pulling searches through here and you'd be amazed what we can sometimes find. Alright, so all of these tabs up here. So don't be afraid to try anything. The worst you can do is explode the internet. Well, you can't really do that. So we're going to look at some of these tabs up here. So capture, start, stop. We can put in filters and so we can get only the data we want to start with. We can analyze. So once we get data, now we can start putting filters in, and there's even downloadable scripts and all different kinds of things. We can look at statistics for different things. So in this particular case, we can look at the file properties for this capture. So when did we get it? How many packets there are? What time span? So here we had 9,200 packets in 55 seconds, 165 packets per second, packet size. So there's a ton of information that you can gather up in here. So you can look at hierarchy of the protocols, how things are working. So one of the first things that a lot of people do when they have networking issues is we fire up something like wireshark if it's applicable, and we start looking and see what traffic is going on in there. Maybe we start seeing that we have a bad network connection and it's flooding our network with repeatedly bad requests or bad acknowledgments or sends or something. And so we can identify that pretty quickly by using these tools like Wireshark. Again, this is a great tool, has all kinds of features, very sophisticated, and the price is certainly right. So if you've installed this in Ubuntu, which it's certainly possible to do, or you've installed this on Windows, you didn't pay anything for it. If you put it in Ubuntu, you didn't pay anything for the operating system, and now you're in for $0 at this point. So we'll look at a lot of other tools, but this is one of the best tools that you can actually find. So when you start see somebody on one of the CSI shows talk about, I'm going to do a packet capture, and they start throwing stuff off on the screen, which may or may not be relevant to any of this, this is what they're using, is a packet capture program. Now theirs magically gets the IP address located within a foot of where this computer is located, but we'll discuss that in a later day, the fallacies of some of those. All right, have a great day, and I hope you enjoy playing with Wireshark now that you've got it downloaded and installed.